Come on, all you dockers, come on, gather round. From Oakland to the Swedish ports, let's let them hear our sound. The ILWU will say, and say it loud and clear. We stand with Erich Helgeson, and we stand with him right here. Now,
my name is Steve Zeltzer. I'm a journalist I'm in the Pacific Media Workers Guild in San Francisco. I'm also a producer of a show called Work Week and on Pacifica, and also a member of the United Front Committee for a Labor Party. So we're having this action today in front of the Swedish Consulate in San Francisco to demand that the Swedish Dockers vice chair be reinstated. He was fired by the company because he supported a labor boycott in Sweden of Israeli military cargo to Israel. So this is an international action to demand that he be rehired, and also to support action of workers around the world to stop the genocide in Gaza and also the West Bank. And U.S. is, of course, actively supporting Israel in this Holocaust that they're perpetuating on the Palestinians, and we feel that there has to be international action. So there have also been boycotts in Genoa, in Italy, among other workers, and that is an important sign that there is growing solidarity. And there's also been a fight in the United States to get unions to support the boycott of Israel. So that's one of the reasons we're here today. We were saying that there should be labor boycotts. Workers have the power to stop the genocide if they take action on the docks and on the airlines and other transportation workers. They have the power. This is very important, and it's sickening for people to see every day the slaughter, the genocide by the Israelis, supported by the United States and companies that profit from that genocide. They're tech companies, Palantir, they're companies that actually make money from genocide that's going on. And the reason Helgeson was fired was because he supported an action by the Swedish dockers to boycott military cargo to Israel. And it was a political retaliation by the company. And this is one of the reasons there aren't more actions in the United States and internationally, because workers who do stand up for labor action, a lot of them are retaliated against, fired. And also, unfortunately in the United States, a lot of union bureaucrats support Israel. They're Zionist. In fact, the AFL-CIO, my union, the CWA, has not made a statement against the genocide. You'd think that they would be making at least a statement against the genocide. They're not. So we have to organize in the labor movement, and we have to fight to basically build a movement, a workers' movement for internationalism. And I think that the attack on Iran, supported by Israel and the United States, is an escalation of this imperialist war. And what we're saying is that it has to stop. The American workers have to stand with the workers of Palestine, the workers of Iran, and workers around the world, including in China, where the United States wants to escalate war, and Ukraine. So one of the important things that we have to understand is that the unions, global unions, are going along with this. The ITF, International Transportation Federation, and the IDC have not had actions internationally. And one of the things that we're also campaigning for is for the unions in the United States and the worldwide to break relations with the Histadrut. The Histadrut is an Israeli trade union federation. It's a corporate trade union, and the Histadrut was involved in the establishment of the State of Israel and boycotting Arab workers. It was also involved in supporting the apartheid regime in South Africa. And we believe that our unions, my union, the AFL-CIO, should not have relations with the Histadrut. It's very important that we break relations with this Israeli apartheid union. And this is an international struggle, and more and more organizations are beginning to call on their unions to break relations with the Histadrut. And what we see is the fight to support Erick is a fight to build internationalism, is a fight against Zionism and the control of the Zionists of many, many unions. In fact, in the United States, the AFL-CIO says that they support Israeli state. They support a Zionist state, even though it discriminates. It's an apartheid state, and it's engaged in racist attack, basically genocidal attacks on Palestinians. So our next speaker is Emily. She was a member of the executive board, and she's a supporter of the Spartacist at ILW Local 10. So welcome, Emily.
Hello, everybody. My name is Emily Turnbull. I've been a longshoreman in Local 10 for some 23 years, but I'm speaking here on my own behalf. Erick Helgeson is a hero of the international working class for having organized what, to my knowledge, is the longest labor boycott of military goods to Israel so far, 6 days. When he was fired, it was a union-busting attack on the entire Swedish labor movement. When he was labeled a threat to Swedish national security, it was a threat to every Palestinian activist in the country and beyond. I need to speak closer? Okay. The Local 10 Executive Board has joined with other unions internationally in demanding Erick's immediate reinstatement. Unfortunately, Local 10 has done little to publicize his case, and the international ILW leadership has not even issued a statement in Erick's defense. There should be more longshoremen out here. This rally may be small, and it is, but we should try to make up for it in spirit. So let's hear it for Erick. Rehire Erich Helgeson.
Rehire Erich Helgeson.
Long live international labor solidarity.
Long live international labor solidarity.
Dock workers all over the world have refused to load arms, which enable the Israeli state to pursue its genocidal war against the Palestinians. Just a few days ago, workers in the port of Piraeus, Greece, refused to load military-grade steel bound for Israel. But these are episodic actions, and as important as they are not enough. Longshoremen around the world need to take matters into their own hands and begin a standing boycott of all military goods cargo to Israel. Only this kind of ongoing labor action can strike a real blow against the Israeli military machine and its U.S. imperialist backers. And such action has to be organized against the imperialist state, not to pressure it.
Right.
Local 10 passed a motion last year calling for such an ongoing boycott, but it was defeated by the ILW International Convention by those who, including our international leadership, think that the interests of U.S. workers lie in supporting a strong U.S. imperialism, be it under the Democrats or Republicans. The truth is exactly the opposite. Everything that weakens U.S. imperialists abroad helps labor here at home. American workers share the same enemy as the Palestinians, the American ruling class. In their frenzy to maintain their position as top dog imperialists of the world, the U.S. ruling class's priority is to drop 30,000 bunker buster bombs on Iran and providing Israel with arms and missiles to kill the Palestinians. Meanwhile, they have deindustrialized the country, gutted public education, shredded health care, and created mass homelessness domestically. While he was bombing Iran, Trump was sending U.S. military forces to Los Angeles to back up ICE raids and mass deportations of immigrants. It couldn't be clearer that the interests of American workers lie in defending Iran and fighting for the liberation of the Palestinian people. A defeat for the U.S. and its Zionist outposts in the Middle East would make it easier for us to fight here at home, to head off Trump's offensive against immigrants, against black people, against labor. All of us. And because, believe you me, Trump is only getting started, and it's going to get a lot worse. The trade unions are the only collective defense organizations that working people have. And in that context, I disagree with Steve about breaking relations with Histadrut, because it is an organization which includes a vast majority of Israeli workers. okay? But the unions in this country and around the world are riddled with divisions and saddled with a leadership which plays right into the hands of the bosses' divide and conquer schemes. This includes my own union, the ILWU, whose leadership, despite its militant traditions, has for decades tied the workers to the liberal wing of U.S. imperialism in the form of the Democratic Party. We can't engage in actions like the strike we waged in 1934, in the general strike which shut down the city of San Francisco. They say, we can't do that anymore. It's illegal. All we can do is vote for the Democrats and wait for them to throw us a few bones. Well, fat chance. It's the Democrats, for example, who have run California into the ground. Years of prostration before the Democrats have only driven those workers who want change, even members of the ILW Local 10, into the arms of Donald Trump. There was a rally for Erich Helgeson in the Hamburg harbor a few months ago. I agree with one of its sponsors, a committee fighting for a militant dockworkers union in Hamburg, who wrote, "The government's armament and war course only benefits the ultra-rich and the business barons who ride roughshod over the workers. And we're supposed to pay for it and tighten our belts." No. Well, this committee of militant German dockworkers is right. Workers have to say no. It is a job of socialists and union militants to fight to strengthen the unions as our collective defense organizations, so that workers here learn that our real material interests lie in boycotting military goods to Israel, and to fight here at home in defense of immigrants and all those who are in the crosshairs of our imperialist rulers. We go down separately, or we fight together. The working class needs its own party, which fights to put the working class in charge of society from top to bottom.
Reinstate Erich Helgeson!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Long live international labor solidarity!
Long live international labor solidarity!
We have to also include the role of the government, the U.S. government, in attacking immigrants in this country. In Los Angeles, there have been raids, military operations surrounding MacArthur Park, and mobilizing the police and ICE and agents to crush workers and to arrest thousands and to terrorize millions of workers around the country. That's what's going on. And in our view, this fascist government that we have, which just received $130 billion from the U.S. Congress, is going to lead to concentration camps being set up to put not only workers in, but political activists and leftists. And we have to be clear that they want to dispense with the Constitution. They want to set up a police state. And I think that that's really what's happening right now. We're threatened with a massive militarization of the state. The $130 billion that was passed by this Congress is going to be used to set up concentration camps throughout the country, is going to be set up to militarize the police and set up fascist gangs. The people who were involved in the insurrection at the Congress are going to be brought into the government and hired by this government, this Nazi government, this fascist government. So we have to start organizing the unions. And what is happening in the United States with David Huerta, who was a leader of the California AFL-CIO, who was attacked at a protest against ICE, is going to happen more and more. There's a danger of a rise of fascism in this country. And I think that it's critical that workers and unions begin to organize a defense campaign against the attacks on the working class. This rise of fascism is not going to be stopped by the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is not going to stop the rise of fascism in the United States and fascist internationally. And the latest development now is that Trump has said that he's going to institute tariffs, massive tariffs against Brazil unless they release Bolsonaro, who's another fascist who wanted to institute a fascist coup in Brazil. What does this mean? It means the rise of fascism internationally. It means that the U.S. state, which is controlled by these fascists, is going to try to spread fascism internationally with the AfD in Germany and Meloni in Italy and in many other countries. So we have to organize internationally, and the Democratic Party, who our unions are supporting, is actually helped institute repression against the working class, and particularly against immigrants. They say that immigrants are the problem. Immigrants are not the problem in the United States. The problem is U.S. imperialism. That's the problem. The problem is that U.S. imperialists have set up dictatorships in Central and Latin America, which have driven people out of their countries. The problem is U.S. imperialism, Democrats and Republicans, who have instituted sanctions against Cuba, sanctions against Venezuela, sanctions against Iran, which has driven people. And the greatest migration that's taken place of immigrants is a result of the U.S. attack on Iraq, the U.S. attack on Syria, the U.S. attack on Libya, which led to millions of people being forced to migrate into Europe. And then the fascists blamed them for the crisis of migration. So this rise of attacks on immigrants is an international development, and it's something that we have to organize against internationally, along with organizing in defense of Erich Helgeson, who took a stand in supporting a boycott of the genocide by Israel, supported by the United States. The other thing that I want to add is this whole militarization that's going on. The United States and Trump are demanding, for example, that Europe militarize, that they spend 5% of their income, their national income, on military. They're doing the same towards Japan and towards Korea to militarize against China. This rise of militarism and this rise of inter-imperialist rivalry against Canada is because the United States is in economic decline. The United States cannot compete against China. So what do? They say we need to raise the military, we need to fight by more militarization. That's not going to save the United States. But if the working class doesn't stop it, then we face a very dangerous situation in this country. We have to oppose militarism. We have to oppose military war. So I think our action here today is important, and it is in conjunction with the international fight for Erich Helgeson. And also we have a musician here who's just arrived. Okay, we have a speaker from the Partisan Defense Committee. So before we go to the musician, let's have a speaker from the Partisan Defense Committee. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm speaking for the Spartacus League and the Partisan Defense Committee, a class struggle, non-sectarian, legal and social defense organization that champions cases and causes in the interests of the whole of the working people. For those of you who are just arrived, I want to emphasize, state again, we are here to defend the Swedish Dockworkers Union president who was fired for the union having a 6-day boycott of military cargo destined for Israel in protest against the genocidal slaughter of Palestinians. For this, the union's national deputy chairman, that's Erich Helgeson, was fired on bogus charges of breaches of national security. These charges are an ominous attack on the union and on international labor solidarity with the besieged Palestinians. The PDC demands reinstate Erich Helgeson with full back pay and benefits. Hands off this SDU. Hands off the SDU.
Hands off the SDU!
From the US to Europe, the imperialist sponsors of the Israeli genocide have launched wholesale assaults on pro-Palestinian activists. Branded as anti-Semites or terrorists, protesters have been brutally attacked, arrested, jailed, and fired, basically kidnapped and thrown into detention. The SDU's 6-day boycott of arms shipments to Israel points the way to the kind of workers' action to underscore yet again Emily's point, the kind of workers' action that is needed to strike a real blow against the genocidal war against the Palestinians. It's important that unions nationally, including the executive board of ILWU Local 10 here in the Bay Area, have begun to rally to the defense of Helgeson and the SDU. But as Emily said again, what's needed is to translate this defense into action not only for the defense, but labor action against Israel's imperialist backers, the common enemy of the international working class and the besieged Palestinians. I wanted to actually make another point about Steve's point about the Histadrut. The job that we have, we must win the Israeli working class over to the struggle for national liberation for Palestine. It is in their interest in terms of any defense of their own living conditions, which are miserable in Israel. That is the only road forward for the entire region. So instead of dismissing them as hopeless reactionaries, we have to win them over. And yeah, it's a hard fight, but they have a hard fight here in the United States, mobilizing the entire working class for black liberation. So if you just say it's impossible, where are you going to go with that? Because in fact, harsh winds of repression are blowing across the world. Unionists, leftists, and especially immigrants and defenders of Palestine are all coming under attack as U.S. imperialism turns the screws to reassert its slipping dominance across the world. This will have a different, I don't consider this to be fascism. This is a right-wing imperialist government in a frenzy to reassert its dominance, which is already militarily and economically, they are on the top of the world and they don't want to let it go. So that's what they're doing now. It is the bourgeoisie as a whole that is the enemy. They want to silence the left and divide the working class, the ultimate target of the state's repressive measures. We need international united front defense based on the power of labor. From pro-Palestinian activists in the US and Europe to youth fighting IMF-dictated austerity in Kenya, Nigeria, and other countries of the global south, leftists and anti-imperialists are under the gun. For an anti-imperialist united front, down with U.S. imperialism. Down with U.S. imperialism! This is desperately needed today as attacks across the world multiply. We have taken up the defense of activists such as Zolani Kotza, a South African trade unionist on trial for alleged terrorism. French leaders like Gaël Kirante and Anassi Kazib target us as leftists and pro-Palestinian activists in France. And here in the US, Alejandra Orellana, a Teamster who was arrested and charged with conspiracy for distributing masks to anti-ICE protesters in LA. The labor movement must be mobilized to demand that all charges against Orellana be dropped. The PDC and the International Communist League have been arguing within the left for united front defense. For too long, it has not been the norm for small left groups to collaborate in defense work. This is a recipe for defeat. We must not let our political differences stand in the way of a united struggle to defend all targets of state repression. An injury to one is an injury to all. Only in pursuing, what? I need to be closer? Only in pursuing such a course can the socialist movement confront head-on the strong winds of reaction, reestablish itself as a pole against the discredited liberals, and reforge working-class organization into a real fighting force. For united international class struggle defense, for united international class struggle defense, for an anti-imperialist united front, down,
United Front.
Down with U.S. imperialism.
Down with U.S. imperialism.
Thank you. And this is a united front action, and we have to go into our unions and build more support for it. And that's critical because workers do have the power. In San Francisco, on July 5th, 91 years ago, there was a general strike. And one of the reasons that it happened was the workers, the unions, were fighting for a union hiring hall in San Francisco for the longshore workers. And 2 workers were killed in San Francisco on July 5th, which led to that general strike. We need more general strikes. that is the only kind of action that can stop this fascist government. And for those who don't believe it's a fascist government, you have to look at Peter Thielsen and Elon Musk and their ideology. Their ideology is that they have to destroy all regulation, and the billionaires have to be directly in charge of the government. This is exactly what happened in Germany. They brought in the capitalists directly into running the government in Germany. And they also crushed the unions. And that's the agenda of this government. And that's why they've been attacking union people directly. And there are going to be major confrontations with the workers. In this country, workers have to be prepared organizationally. And in California, right now, there's a massive attack in California. They're cutting NIH, they're laying off healthcare workers, they're destroying Medicaid. Millions of workers are going to lose their healthcare. There's a frontal attack on the working class and the unions. Education, public services, and the Project 2025 is to privatize all public services and to set up company unions. That's the program of fascism. So we have to unite, and we have to prepare in California for a mass general strike to shut the state down against these attacks, because they're going to escalate. What they're doing in Los Angeles is going to be escalated throughout the state and nationally. So one of the things that we have to build is music and culture, and we have with us Pat Fahey, who is a labor troubadour, labor musician, who's written a song around solidarity with our brother Erick Helgeson. So welcome, Pat.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, literally editing this morning, because there's no every second counts. It's unbelievable. My name is Pat Fahey. I have a show on called Megatrends every Thursday on Pacific Coast TV, and this was part of the show, as well as dear friends of mine who are educators, myself being a retired educator. All of the teachers are freaking out because they are caught off guard by the July 1st announcement to freeze funds to education all of a sudden. And all of the administrators are seem ill-prepared to know what to do. It's like getting hit with a punch you don't see coming, you know what I mean? It's like that's sort of where we're at. So we really have to do everything we can, like things like this, invite our friends and come to these things more often and really make a lot of noise. So let's make some noise. Let's make some music here. This is Which Side Are You On, to the song Which Side Are You On? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Boy, which side are you on? Come on, all you dockers, come on, gather round. From Oakland to the Swedish ports, let's let them hear our sound. The ILWU will say, and say it loud and clear. We stand with Erich Helgeson, we stand with him right here. Now, which side are you on, and which side are you on? Say it loud now, which side are you on? Now, which side are you on? From the docks and to the mines, we will not be swayed. No justice done, not done at all, with all those warships paid. Helgeson said, no weapons, and now they've thrown him out, but we stand with him right here, and that's what this fight's about. Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Oh boy, which side are you on? Now look at now. Our guy, he stood up for Gaza. They punished him with shame. But justice can't be silenced. We rise and call his name. ILWU and Dockers, they know what's right and wrong. We won't move their weapons. We sing a different song. Which side are you on? Boy, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? We fight for every worker who dares to take a stand. From Sweden out to Oakland, we walk hand in hand. Come on, all you dockers, and come on, gather round. From Oakland to Swedish ports, let's hear them hear our sound. Which side are you on? Now, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? I can't hear it now. Which side are you on? on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
The ILW is the only union in the United States that's taken direct action to stop the Zim ships. The Zim ships no longer dock on the ports of the West Coast, and that's because of solidarity action by the ILW not to cross picket lines, a labor community picket line. So we want to continue that fight and build an international labor movement to take direct action in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Palestine and Gaza and the West Bank. So thanks for joining us today. Solidarity. Hands off, Erich Helgeson.
Hands off 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 Erich Helgeson.
For labor action against the Zionists.
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 Hands off Erich Helgeson.
Hands off Erich Helgeson.